Just wanted to welcome all of you to an AMA with the Cross Chain Capital team. Obviously, nothing here we say is financial advice. We're here just to provide information on CCC, where they're going, what they've been up to, and we're going to dig into it. So, first, do you want to introduce yourself, Chief?
Um, I guess I'll introduce myself as one of the co-founders of CrossChain Capital. I mean, I've mentioned before we're an anonymous team, and all of us sort of come from different backgrounds. Some of the people have actually only joined the team recently, that we discovered through the Discord. But yeah, I guess to speak for myself, I'm not a developer. It's a common misconception, I guess. I'm not involved with the, actual coding of the project at all. I fulfill a variety of roles, which comes down to like strategy, design, marketing, so on, and then community management as well. And that's also how I know the team. Um, so I guess to speak for the rest of the team's background, the developers specifically, so they're actually involved with like a private blockchain project for like a multinational corporation that everyone here is aware of. I doubt there's anyone in the world who doesn't know them. But essentially, the lead developer is like the domain architect for them. So these aren't, like script kiddies. These are people with a lot of experience. Yeah. And then I guess for the other team members, we now have Mur and Briscoe. Mur, who is essentially an analyst for us, who is focused specifically on DeFi, and then Briscoe, who is focused on play to earn gaming. You guys, if you've seen their articles regarding the butterfly, convex, and also the Crabada proposals, then they were the primary authors of that.
And what we'll do too for people that are watching this on the replay, we'll gather those articles and include them in the YouTube video. That way, people can kind of read through what you're talking about now. Okay.
Yeah, I definitely recommend people check those out, especially the Crabada article. That one is just crazy.
Awesome, man. That's great. So there is definitely going to be some people that watch this that don't know what cross chain capital is. So do you want to give us a quick rundown of what you guys are doing and just kind of how long the project's been going? Just a little bit of background.
Yeah, I guess I'll start with talking about kind of what led us to this. And I think kind of similar to Cryptonairz. So all of us, we kind of met, like over the past year because we're all part of a, Discord server. And the purpose of the Discord server was the same as Cryptonairz. We were just researching projects. I mean, we developed our own tools as well, a lot of bots for tracking wallets, finding new projects on listing. And I mean, we've been pretty successful, which is why we have stuck together throughout this entire time. But over several months, we started thinking about what were some of the flaws of the way we were organized and some of the experiences that we had with other members, where people just moved on. They went to different groups or they decided they wanted to be involved in something else. And I don't think it was for, a lack of alpha or anything necessarily like that. Some people, for example, may want to focus on FTM. Some people want to focus on AVIX. For me, I've been a big advocate for AVIX for a long time now. So we were thinking, essentially, how can we create this incentivized model using a DAO structure that would help us retain members, retain talent, and also find the best talent. Because at the time we were really just investing together, but we weren't pooling, funds. We didn't have any sort of treasury, multi-sig, anything like that. And so basically when MCC released, it has pretty simple tokenomics, but we were thinking, okay, this is actually something, that we've wanted to do for a while. And right now there's a lot of momentum because of the launch of MCC. So we kind of just decided to go for it. But the vision for us has always been to be an investment DAO. And I guess the way I define that is it's not farming as a service. I'm not interested in that concept at all. And for me, what an investment DAO, is really capable of is the fact that it can kind of, bring together, variety of talents, people who have multiple interests, and because the crypto industry is pretty broad. DeFi, play to earn gaming, metaverse, NFTs. I don't understand all of it. like NFTs, for example. I don't know anything about it, but of course I would like to learn from people who do. So thinking, like combining all of our skills, working together to research projects and figure out where we can invest to maximize our returns. That's one function that I think an investment DAO is great for. But I think even beyond that, it's, like we can actually build products that benefit our members, like we're doing with Prism right now, like basically leveraging bonds to like finance our operations. We've, passive income is another part of it. People are earning daily, just holding the token and being part of the DAO. Education is going to be another aspect of it. But I think even someone mentioned, like they were calling us kind of like the Berkshire, like Hathaway of Web3. And I mean, it's kind of funny, but I'm like, that actually is something that I think we could become for Web3, by solidifying our role in all of those industries, by acquiring, for example, blue chip NFTs, by developing scholarships like Merit Circle is doing, or Fife Guild. I think what really distinguishes us from those projects is that we're not focused on a specific niche, because we don't really see the point of it. We think that it's possible to actually, like conquer all of that for the advantage of the DAO. So, yeah.
Wow, man, that's a lot to go over. So you said, people can, how are people making money? They're just buying and holding the token and getting reflections. Can you walk us through kind of the tokenomics part of it? How are people able to participate? Do they need to do anything besides buying and holding CCC? Can you just walk us through that?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty simple. You go on Trader Joe, you buy CCC. There's two aspects, I guess, to the CCC token. The first one being there's a buy tax, which is 10%. The buy tax distributes reflections to all holders. So if someone comes in and buys $1,000 worth, we're going to take $100, and that's going to be distributed between every single person that's holding CCC. The other side of it is there's a sell tax as well. So when someone exits their position, and similarly, if they sold $1,000, the treasury would take $100 from that. And that's essentially how the treasury is built, and how we acquire funds to invest in other projects.
So what is the process of investing in other projects? Is this something that the team are making decisions behind the scenes? Is this something that you guys are discussing in the Discord with the community? I mean, can you walk us through the kind of thought process behind new projects you're getting into? Is it more like a vote for the community, or is it something that you guys are just handling everything on the back end?
Yeah. So I guess for the short term, and the long term, I think it's going to change in the long term. That's ideally our goal. But I mean, from week one, the way it started is as a new project. We only had our team, and so we managed the treasury, which at the time meant going into time, for example, and that was just for the sake of expediency. It was just because it's our first week, and we were focused on developing, marketing the project, and then of course there's the migration issue. Now that we're kind of moving past all of that, we've started expanding the team by recruiting analysts, and then we also have started implementing governance. So just to be honest, we're not fully decentralized yet, but that is the goal for the project. And the model that we're thinking of using is eventually going to be a delegate model. And there's a lot of pros and cons that need to be considered with governance, but that's why we're leaning towards the delegate model, is for the sake of finding the most talented and the most trustworthy members to manage the treasury. And the delegate model just allows us to execute much faster than we would if it was a pure democracy, for example, where everyone votes on a proposal, and then it takes a week to execute, and then the price could already be up, let's say 200% by then.
Yeah, I know it gets difficult when you have to make those decisions on the fly. You kind of have to make them and just kind of move on.
Yeah.
I know you guys had to migrate to a V2 contract. Do you want to walk us through maybe what was wrong with version 1 and what you guys fixed in going to V2?
Yeah, so the issue with version 1 is that MCC was actually a fork of Flocky originally. And so Flocky had this issue, and then Flocky, I believe, did 2 migrations actually. So they have a version 3, which is where they're at now. And no one knew about the inflation issue at the time. And our developer mentioned that he had seen something that seemed off, but he kind of ignored it because he assumed there's no way that, this like problem wasn't dealt with. And so we kind of assumed that they knew. And then, a week later, we find out MCC is kind of dealing with this catastrophe because the inflation issue is discovered. And then, just by default, we also had the inflation issue. So we had to work to fix it as quickly as possible. So pretty much we were working day and night. And then, they had created a new contract within 4 days, I believe. And that's when we did the migration to version 2. So that was the reason behind it. It was essentially the supply had expanded something like, I think 80% within 4 days. So it was really bad, actually. And you could even see the effect on the chart. Price just wasn't moving. It was kind of just ranging forever, despite the fact that we had tremendous volume and there were very large buys coming in. So we discussed it and decided that we had to migrate as quickly as possible because at the rate that the supply was expanding, we were just going to end up going to zero, if we had waited another 1 or 2 weeks, basically. So yeah, it was an emergency. And yeah.
So after you guys are migrated to V2, have you guys solved all the issues now? V2 is looking stronger than ever. Can you just walk us through it?
Yeah. So we've checked the supply constantly, and the lead developer, he developed a script to check the supply. So we're absolutely certain that we have a static supply now. And then we also sent 5 billion tokens to the burn address. And the burn address receives reflections the same way that a holder would. So that means that our supply is actually deflationary, and it's constantly decreasing every time that someone buys the CCC token.
That's really interesting. So can you talk about what your guys' long-term plan is for sustainability?
Yeah.
Just kind of go into that a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. So we right now there's the CCC token, and then there's Prism, and then we actually have a third product that we've already sketched out and we're going to begin working on immediately after Prism launches. But I think essentially, like, for this project to thrive, it's a lot more than just having this 10% tax on buy and sells. It's a lot more than just doing buybacks and adding liquidity, because that's really a game that unless you have sustainable revenue that's coming into the project, and unless you're actually managing the treasury well, obviously, you need to be making returns consistently. Otherwise, people are just going to be continuously selling, draining the liquidity, and so on. So that's a concern and a problem that we have to manage. And the way I've been describing the issue is, we need to figure out a way to actually generate, consistent and sustainable revenue for the protocol. And we can do that, through a variety of means. But one of those ways is, by providing bonds for users. Another way is with our third product, which I can't really give too much details on because we want to avoid being front run by others. But the idea for the third project is essentially that it's going to generate tremendous yield for users, and it's actually not inflationary, and it's not going to be diluted in the way that a typical staking pool is, where, for example, the more holders there are, the more diluted the rewards are. That means less to each holder in the staking pool. So what we're releasing doesn't deal with any of those issues, but what we're going to be implementing is a performance fee that is going to be distributed back to CCC and Prism. And this is a debate that a lot of projects are having, particularly MCC and Ohm forks, is this question of how to generate revenue. Because the game theory behind it, with Ohm, for instance, you have users who are coming in for these bond discounts. They're getting this tremendous yield from it, but all of those people are selling. They're taking profit because there's no point in being in the project if you're not making money off of it, right? And so it's essentially its entire future is contingent on more people coming in with capital. And obviously the early entries are the ones who are going to be taking profit against that capital. So generating sustainable revenue is absolutely essential to the future of the project. And that's what we're trying to solve. And that's also why we've been avoiding, the term just farming as a service for users. And that's what Prism, and we've been kind of joking, calling it Thingy. But that's what those are designed to address, basically.
Okay. Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
that makes sense. I mean, if you guys
Yeah.
don't have it, or if a project doesn't have an outside source of revenue, then, I mean, unless people are constantly investing in, and that creates, a lot of sell pressure, and
Right.
and then the project just drives that price down.
So, I mean, there are ways that we're already doing this as well. For example, before either of those projects released, which is with Crabada. So we invested $100,000 into Crabada. And I guess if people don't know what Crabada is, it's a play-to-earn game. It's very similar to Axie Infinity. So, you have these sort of crab monsters that you buy on the marketplace. You can breed them to create more crabs, and then you can mine with them. And when you mine, you earn the governance token, CRA, and then you also earn another token that's called TUS. And so the returns from it are actually really good right now. It's you would essentially get a return on your initial in 40 days. So about 2.5% per day. So it's pretty solid, daily returns. But we invested in Crabada not only because of the immediate yield that we're getting, but also just betting on, the entire play to earn gaming market. We think that's an industry with a lot of potential, and that's going to grow tremendously over the next few years. And we think Crabada is one of those projects that's like well positioned to grow along with the rest of that market. So they have a lot of cool stuff that's coming out, which is, for example, land sales. They have a PvP game, questing system, and then another feature is going to be scholarships, which if you saw Axie Infinity in the beginning, the price was around $4, but then after they released their scholarship system, the price skyrocketed and ended up going to hundreds of dollars. But the reason I'm bringing that up and how that relates back to, generating revenue for the protocol is scholarships, mining, all of that is a way that we're actually generating, revenue that's being directed back to CCC. And so that $100,000 that we invested, right now, it's actually generating us about $140,000 a month. But with our breeding operation, that's going to be over $200,000. Actually, within an hour is when our eggs hatch, and that's when our yield will increase to $200,000. So that was, a significant reason for going into it. But the scholarship system as well, Southeast Asia, people have been going crazy about this game because they're earning above, a middle class salary from these play to earn games. And so the scholarship model is something that we want to retain for the DAO. And that's one of the benefits that we'll be providing to the DAO members is, now you have access to this play to earn game that you can actually earn, significant income from. So that's just one example of, how we're doing that.
That's really interesting. I was actually going to ask you what kind of ROI you guys were seeing from that first investment. So that kind of answered that question. So I was kind of looking through your guys' Twitter last night, and I saw something about you guys were looking for an animator, and that might be part of your third project. I don't know, but is there anything that you could kind of talk about with that, or is that still under wraps?
Yeah, that's for Thingy, our third project.
Yeah, okay. I kind of figured, but I wanted to throw it out there just in case. So
yeah, I mean, so there's going to be an NFT component to it, but that's not the significant, aspect behind it. The art that's going to be included is honestly just, like a fun thing that we want to do for people who invest in it. So, yeah.
Okay, that's really cool. Can you guys? Can you elaborate on what Prism is for everybody and just kind of explain what that's going to do for the project?
Yeah, so Prism is, I guess, the simplest way to describe it is a gnome fork, which I'm sure many people are aware of. But the purpose behind Prism for us is, I mean, the way that bonds are typically used is to, like finance operations. You take government bonds, for example. So it's an IOU, but what we're using bonds for is to essentially leverage them to acquire assets that the protocol would want. And so there's a lot of different examples of how that's being done. Butterfly is one example. They've mainly focused on stable coins. But for us, the way that we want to use it is, for one, to acquire assets in, like obviously stables, MIM. We want to acquire AVIX because, we're long on AVIX. We think AVIX is going to grow tremendously. And then we're also long on our own token, CCC. And so we're going to be offering CCC bonds for users. But there's two ways to think of that, because CCC being a reflection token, Prism also receives the reflections from it. So that means that the treasury is constantly expanding from that. The other side of it too is that users have a way to exit their positions without imposing, sell pressure on CCC. And so the way that's done is just by bonding, into Prism, and in return they get a different token, which is Prism, at a discount. And then the reason we want that to happen is because we're taking CCC out of circulation. So we're acquiring all the CCC that people are bonding with us, and we can actually redirect that back to users as another incentive. So immediately when Prism launches, some of the things that we're thinking about, for example, are these longer term, staking pools. And it's similar to Umami. The concept that they used was marinate. So the way that works is you can choose a different length of time that you'll stake, your Prism token, and you'll get, an increased yield for doing that. And the reason we're rewarding people who do that is because they're taking on more risk, and they're also contributing more to the protocol. So of course we want to incentivize that further. So taking the CCC that is being bonded with the protocol, we can actually distribute that back to Prism stakers so that they have exposure to both assets, the rebases and then the reflections from CCC. Another, we're going to have a CCC long-term staking pool as well, where people can add that. And the perks that we're going to be adding is, because we have exposure to all these different projects, which right now are Time, Crabada, Convex, and Butterfly. So we're going to be providing rewards to people who are staking their tokens long term. So for example, that could be distributions of CRA and TOS. We've talked about actually giving away crab teams to people who stake their tokens long term. And I mean, the value of a single crab team, when you calculate the yield from that per year, that's about $200,000 essentially that you would earn if you were to receive a crab team. So those are like kind of the perks that we want to distribute back to people who are contributing the most to the protocol through long-term staking.
Man, you guys are working on a ton of stuff behind the scenes. Man,
Yeah,
it's
kind of
crazy.
but yeah.
No, it's great to see, and I'm sure there's some of the people in the community here that have some questions about the stuff. I know you guys are doing token burns too. Can you walk us through how much you guys have burnt so far and the plans for future burns?
Yeah, I guess I want to add to what we're discussing with Prism and what distinguishes us from other ohm forks.
Please.
Because obviously I know plenty of people here have reservations towards entering an ohm fork. A lot of them have been failing. There's been a lot of rugs, and it has a lot of the concerns has to do with the significant yield and the inflation rate. And so of course we have to implement mechanisms to keep that in check, and prevent the token from just depreciating rapidly. So we have a couple mechanisms for that, which is, there's going to be a buy and sell tax on Prism. That's not for bonds. That's for people who buy and sell the token specifically. And then aside from that, there's the long-term staking pools to provide more price stability. And then there's also going to be a tax, which Midas or Crown has also implemented. But it's going to be a tax if the token falls below, the backed price. So essentially it's going to be burning the tokens, removing them out of circulation, to kind of compensate for the inflation. But then this is also where our third product comes in, is bringing in that revenue. So that's also backing the Prism token, so that we're buying it, burning it, using the revenue earned from the thingy token. Yeah.
So all three of these projects are going to basically be helping out each other and growing together. Is what you're saying?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. And then the thing with Thingy, I guess, because a lot of people had concerns about us creating too many tokens.
Yeah.
So Thingy is going, what is kind of unique about it too, is that it's not going to remove, like any of that demand from CCC or Prism. It's going to be directed directly back to both of those tokens. So that's the primary benefit of it. And I mean, like, we could have launched this token on our own and just taken the performance fee for ourselves, but we actually want to direct that back to CCC and Prism. Yeah. So this was kind of like our dream project to do this. So like, we have a long-term vested interest in building it.
When can we get kind of more alpha information on this third project? How soon are you guys close to releasing it, or is this something that's Q2 maybe, or what's the timeline on that?
It's never been done before, and it's completely fresh code. And so the ETA that we have on it right now is 6 weeks.
Will that code be audited?
Yes, it will. Yeah. So it's completely fresh, and so that's, and inevitably what's gonna make it take a little bit longer is because we're exploring new territory with this. But I don't think it'll be too long. Our rough estimate right now is 6 weeks. And then I would say probably next 3 to 4 weeks, we'll start releasing more details about it. Because not every aspect of it can be forked. And so we're not, that's not a huge concern for us. But we'd rather have things in place so that we, don't run the risk of being front run by anyone else. So probably 3 to 4 weeks, we'll release more details about it and describe, how it works exactly.
And I know right now we still have, I think, 2 days. The 16th is the last day to go in and register for whitelist for Prism, right? If you have 16 million, you can register on the whitelist for a $500 buy in MIM. If you have up to 75 million, you can whitelist for up to $1,500 worth of Prism on MIM. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Yeah. Are you guys going to do something similar like that to the other project as well, or?
Actually, we want to make it fun, so we're going for a kind of stealth launch. I mean, we don't care if people know about it, but the kind of launch that we're going for is going to be very obscure. We're going for a kind of like cinematic vibe, which is why we wanted to hire an animator. And there's going to be a basic description of what kind of yields can be earned for it. But I think what will be fun about the project is, like, people actually looking on Snowtrace, trying to figure out, what is going on behind the scenes. So it's going to release with limited information. And then I would say after a week, is when we'll actually publish a full article describing, what the hell it is that we did with this project.
That's exciting, man. You guys are working on so much stuff. I think it's really cool. Anything else that maybe you haven't told us about Prism or CCC before we kind of open it up to the audience to come up and ask some questions?
Yeah, for sure. We've talked about a lot over the past few weeks. Prism is coming up very soon. We're already like 70% through with development. It's going to be audited because, we had to make a lot of modifications to the code. So just for the sake of everyone's security, we're going to get it audited. Aside from that, we're starting our marketing soon, which is going to encompass a lot of different things from Twitter, TikTok, Brave browser ads, deck screener ads. So we have a $500,000 budget allocated for that. And so far we really only have, we're looking at 200,000 that we're going to actually end up spending. So there's a lot of room for that money to be used as well. But I guess to kind of describe, our roadmap is, like I said, we see ourselves as fulfilling a variety of functions, and we're going to be investing in a lot of different, industries within crypto. But aside from that too is like, I think the primary things that we really want to get started on in the next few months is going to be the scholarship programs. Similar things to what Merit Circle are doing and Fife Guilds. And then aside from that, we also really want to build an educational platform. And, you know, like people come to these groups because they want alpha, but for a newcomer in crypto, it's very difficult to get involved if you don't have a network. You know, if you don't even know where to begin with defining layer 1, layer 2, or figuring out how to use a DeFi product. So that's something that we also plan on working on in the next few months, is actually setting up an educational platform with kind of introductory articles and videos, just, you know, breaking down these concepts for people. And then, you know, the other side of it is the network. You know, if you join the DAO, you're now part of this network. You know, you can learn from all of our members, you know, figure out new projects to invest in. So that's kind of the direction that we're headed in now.
No, I think an education center is really good, man, because you have so many new people waking up to crypto every day, and it's really important that when they do make it to your page, that you can educate them properly on what you guys are doing, so they know that this is a long-term sustainable hold, right? It's not something that you're trading in and out of. You're actually wanting to hold on to this for future value and things like that. So I think that's very important.
Exactly.
You guys are doing,
and I mean, that's
right.
Yeah, and I mean, that's a tremendous value add. The same way I'm sure your members stick around because they believe you guys provide a lot of value. So I think education is really key. You know,
You're absolutely right, man. What you got, Scott?
You know, statistically, I was just going to say, you know, statistically in 2021, there was like 300 million crypto users. I mean, that's our world population is over 7 billion, I believe. And I mean, there's still a huge amount of people that haven't even gotten into crypto yet. So I think a education center is going to be very, very key to onboarding new people in the future.
Right. I mean, we're extremely early in this space, and you know, I was looking at kind of the early days of the internet and considering how many people were actually using the internet in like 1995, for example. And the number was something like roughly, you know, like 3-4 million. And that's about how many, you know, like daily, like active wallets are being used in crypto right now.
Right.
And so that's, for comparison, you know, like that's where we're at. It's kind of like, this is our 1995 moment. We're all early. We're still all figuring out the space. And there's just a ton to learn, you know? Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, should we open it up to the audience for some questions? What do you guys think? Let's do it.
Yep, I think so. I think it'd be smart.
All right, guys. Well, hey, if anyone has a question, raise your hand. We'll bring you up on stage, and you can ask your question. We'll get it answered for you. Semper Fi, I approved you to come up. You got to click the. Oh, you've got it, man. You're awesome. Look at you. What's going on, Semper?
How are y'all today?
Good, good. What you got for Chief?
Good. Yeah. So my question is Chief, you already know I've been a part of the project for quite some time, and I see all the things that are going on. But I want to speak to something you said in regards to. I know that you don't want to be considered a fast project, farming as a service, but I know in some instances there's some elements of that you guys are. And with the other projects that are coming out, like Prism and this the third project, my concern, if I was to have one, would be that one of the benefits that I see people in this industry have that have them so drawn to projects like CCC and other fast projects is the fact that it simplifies what they don't know, right? Most people aren't good at farming. They're not 24 hours a day in this field. And so they want to just give something to somebody else and have you guys do all the work on the back end that rewards them. When you have the projects like Prism coming out and another project coming out, are you going to have something in relation to your holders that clearly explain to them the different strategies within your own ecosystem that doesn't force them to have to learn a bunch of new stuff? Because I think that's really where the big market's going to be, is there's plenty of people like me and you and everybody else. We're just dazzled by this stuff. We want to learn as much as possible. But I think the big opportunity is going to be people say, you know what, I just want to park it and leave it and let y'all be the experts and me go on with my life. Right. And how are you going to accommodate that, I guess, with all these other things you're doing?
Yeah, I completely agree. And I'm going to drop what is basically, this is just a teaser of the, you know, this is essentially an explanatory video of what CCC is. And so we've already started working on one for Prism. So, you know, we're designing the storyboard for it that we can send to the video producer. But yeah, so we want to make it as easy as possible to onboard people, like into our ecosystem. And yeah, I've mentioned it in our, like what is farming as a service article, on Medium. And I kind of mentioned or touched on, for example, like what we see ourselves as is kind of like this bridge between the informal, like Telegram investor groups and the institutional side of it, which would be like Three Arrows Capital, Alameda Group, and so on. So creating that sort of content is absolutely key to, like our growth. And it's also something that we want to do because, like I said, it's a major issue for newcomers who are entering the space. There's just a lot to learn. It's very complex technically. And then also just DeFi itself kind of requires some familiarity with finance, which probably the most, like vast majority of people don't really have. So yeah, let me try and find this video now and send it to you guys.
Okay, and the other thing, if you don't mind, is I know that you've been talking about refi. I'm sorry, I apologize. The home fork that's coming out, and I don't know if you mentioned or not, because I had to step away. But for anybody on this call, you also currently have a whitelisting option because you got to have some CCC to be able to buy Prism, and there's what 2 days left in that scenario. Could you speak to that if you haven't already?
Why we did a whitelist?
No, the one's required. I don't know if you mentioned on the call that folks in the project you need to know.
Yeah, it was mentioned on the call, but it's pretty simple. The way that it works is, if you have $100 worth of CCC, then you will have access to a maximum of $500 worth of Prism. And then if you have like $500 worth of CCC or 75 million tokens, then you'll have access to up to $1,500 of Prism. And you can also, I mentioned this in our team updates, let's say you started with only $100, but then you decided that you wanted to, acquire a larger allocation. That's automatically registered by the bot, so you don't have to whitelist again. When the pre-sale launches on Sunday, when you connect your wallet, all of that information will already be there, and you'll be able to buy 1,500 or whatever amount you want. So,
thank you.
Yeah. Is there a specific text chat maybe that I should drop this video?
Yeah. So it's only going to be for our members. I would post it in two places. I'd post it in your main channel and then DM me it, and I'll post it for all of my members so they can see it.
Okay. For all the people who are in the CCC Discord, I'm going to post the video in general. And guys, keep in mind, this is a draft. I know that there's issues with it. We sent the edits to them. And yeah, so don't worry, it's going to be changed. It's going to look a lot better than its current state. It's not letting me send the video to you, actually. I guess the file size is too large.
No worries. We can figure that out towards after, and then what we'll do is we'll link that video in the YouTube clip so people watching this on a replay can actually just click on it. Once we'll put it in the information for the video.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah.
It's all good. We'll figure it out after the AMA. We'll just keep it going right now.
Okay, no worries.
Yeah,
I hope that answered all your questions.
Yeah, Semper, did that answer all your questions? Are you good, my friend?
Yeah, I think so. I'll just look forward to, like I said, I know even if I'm the own fork, some people are confused about when do they bond, when do they just stake and get rewards, and then you have a CCC token also involved, and just having either a infograph or something like that clearly shows holders, here are some different within our own ecosystem that will probably reward you the strongest, and there's always options, but at least it gives some people some oversight on how they can maximize what you're offering. This is an area where a lot of projects fail, is they do a lot of cool things, but they don't realize how much the community doesn't fully understand what all they're doing, and they miss opportunities due to their lack of education or lack of getting education. And so the more you can be transparent and somewhat guiding in that, I think the more successful you'll be moving forward as new people continue to come into the market. So, but I appreciate all that you've done. The transition was great. Always drama with that, but you guys worked very hard, and I think it showed.
Yeah, that's definitely a focus for us. And I mean, like, our team has been, like, slowly growing. We've added a lot of people, like a video producer, graphic designer. So now we can really start to, like, start turning out that content a lot more consistently. So, I mean, I'm sure you've noticed the graphics that we've been dropping with Crabada and even the Cryptonairz AMA. That's all because we just got, a graphic designer who's working for us full time now. So, yeah. Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, I think Oki has a question, don't you, Oki?
Hey, Chief. Thanks so much for the time. I think everything's been really clear, and for everything you've built with the platform so far. I had a quick question regarding the marketing strategy, and sorry if you've already touched on it, but I think one of the things I find really interesting about the model is sort of the flywheel effect of the model, right? So, right now volume seems to be between $100,000 and $200,000 a day. But when you really build it up to what MCC is now, 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, right? That's when a lot of the benefits come into play. You can market, you can market the APR, the treasury grows, etc. How do you think about that flywheel effect, and how do you think about sort of the marketing strategy to start onboarding a lot of new users so that flywheel can really get going?
Yeah, so I mean, we've kind of taken a pause on it because, like you said, our volume isn't extremely high, and even though that is, a critical piece of it, for people to actually see how much they're earning on a daily basis and so on, we don't want that to be solely contingent on just new buyers coming in, because that model by itself is eventually the demand is going to decline. I mean, imagine you have 50,000 holders, and there's that number can only keep increasing for so long. And I mean, that's the purpose of releasing new products or engaging in marketing, is to kind of, like, create that demand. But like I said, we're also trying to generate consistent revenue so that, like, we don't, like, the project doesn't just like dip perpetually, like, once that demand declines. So those are like two aspects to it. But yeah, we're definitely, we've kind of been delayed with the development of Prism because OM is very complex. It's like over 20 contracts. And then we're also creating a website for that. So we plan on adding, like, an improved, like, portfolio tracker calculator so people can check how much they've earned. We created an infographic, which was just a table on the estimated yield, assuming the price stays the same, but assuming that volume increases. So that's not factoring in for the price appreciating at all. And even with $100,000 in daily volume, you're still looking at, for example, 158% per year, which is pretty decent returns, and then obviously much higher as the volume increases. So we'll keep putting that stuff out, and we definitely plan on, like, making that one of the, like, key features of cross-chain capital. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I mean, love the strategy and moving away from sort of the Ponzonomics of early sellers selling on sort of the new capital. Agree with you completely. I guess once you've put out all of those products, how do you envision marketing sort of the protocol? Like what avenues do you envision using, like Twitter, YouTube, etc.?
Yeah, we'll be using every platform that we can. We already have an Instagram, we have a TikTok. We just closed a deal with another influencer who's like 100,000 followers on Twitter and TikTok. And I think the key of what we'll want to focus on is the passive income mechanisms, and also the, like, the investment DAO aspect of it, how we're managing, this treasury and using it for the benefit of users. Because that's ultimately, like, that, as well as the new products that we're building, is ultimately what is going to sustain this project into the future. So I think those are the main things that we want to highlight, in all of our marketing content. And that's what we'll be doing on TikTok, YouTube, once this video drops. And actually, I think maybe I should just do a screen share if possible to show people the video.
I don't think we can screen share in this ecosystem right here. Discord is kind of crappy when it comes to that kind of stuff, but Shoot, yeah, we'll just have to include the link in the YouTube clip and then share it in either Discord. Sorry about that.
Yeah. So Oki, does that answer your question or?
Yeah, that was perfect. That's it from my end. Thanks so much for the time, Chief.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate you, Oki. Thank you so much. And then, guys, feel free to raise your hand if anyone has any other questions. I know Chief has done an excellent job about going through the information and dissecting it bit by bit. I think we've all kind of learned a ton about CCC and Prism, and actually this third project that I'm actually very interested about now. We'll give it maybe another minute to see if anyone else wants to raise their hand and ask a question. Chief, in the meantime, is there anything else maybe that we need to know? Any other projects that you guys are investing in, maybe that we can look at or anything like that?
We're looking at a couple projects right now. So we have our like trading and research channels. We have our governance channels. So we'll be publishing content pretty consistently regarding new projects. Our most recent entry was into Convex, but I mean, that's, just like our stable farming strategy. So it's not the most exciting thing. We're going to have articles coming out soon, most likely on, there's Chicken NFT project. PYR is another one, Vulcanverse, as people are familiar with it. So we'll have a lot of stuff coming out, especially on DeFi and play to earn gaming. But honestly, we're looking everywhere. I would say right now, like our focus is kind of on, FTM and then play to earn gaming. The play to earn gaming focus is just because that's an industry that isn't fully developed yet. There's still a lot of early entries in it. It's very young, but I think that's also what is going to distinguish us from other projects is, not only are we going to be an investment DAO, but we're also going to be like this play to earn gaming guild where our users are earning from gaming and have access to them. So yeah.
That's huge, man. We do have a couple questions up here. Why don't we go with JJH11 first? What's going on, JJ?
Hey, can you hear me?
We can hear you, brother.
Yeah.
What you got for Chief?
Hey, what's up?
Cool. So when you guys make an investment, such as like with the Crabada,
Mm-hmm.
and like honestly, it seems like you guys are knocking that one out of the park. It was great timing and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if you can clarify how the revenue from an investment like that is tied in with like a standard holder of CCC. Like maybe it's more tied in with the upcoming projects, or I'm just wondering how much of that is more like goes into the back end to give you guys more funds in the treasury to do like for the developers to do what they want versus if there's any direct correlation when the possibility for that revenue to be directly correlated with holders of CCC.
So essentially, like, how is that? Like, how are those returns being directed back to the CCC holders?
Yeah, like I'm
Okay.
Obviously it has an impact. I just don't know if it's a totally indirect system or if it is like. I'm just wondering if you could clarify that whole thing.
Yeah, for sure. I mentioned one way, which was the distribution of crab teams or, CRA and TOS to the long-term stakers. But even for the people who aren't staked long-term, like we're going to be making more than $500,000 very soon from this investment. And so inevitably we're going to allocate, a significant portion of it to buybacks and adding liquidity. So basically that's what's going to make up the reflections that the users receive. Also, like raising the price floor for the CCC token through the additional liquidity. But yeah, there's multiple parts to it because it's the actual revenue that we're going to be generating directing back to the CCC token. There's the scholarship aspect of it. So actually offering scholarships to the DAO members. And, like it's also like a long-term investment thesis. So the yield and the returns on that investment can increase dramatically in the future. But yeah, it's multiple parts, some that are directly related to CCC and others that are indirectly related, but that provide benefits to the CCC token holders. And the ways that would happen indirectly are going to be through the scholarships, through the distribution of the native tokens for Crabada, and then through the giveaway of crab teams, which our members can use to mine and play the game themselves to earn money. So
cool. JJ,
sounds good.
you good, man? Did you have another question for Chief?
So I just wanted to step in with a question.
Hold on, my friend. We got a couple other people in front of you, man. Let's kind of do this in an orderly fashion. JJ, you good? JJ, did you still have another question, or are you good, my friend?
I mean, I can be here all day, but it sounds like Raymond can keep going.
Yeah, we have Secret Smoothies was up here first. I just wanted to kind of give him the first chance, and then we'll get to Raymond. Secret, did you have a question? And then we'll get to Raymond.
Yeah, sure. Let me just quickly chime in here, and then Ray can go.
Please.
Just to say, really do enjoy the project. It's been very fun following it since the beginning. Kind of my questions are more along the lines of, are you going to be airdropping kind of like these the rewards, or will we be getting more dividends and other types of tokens? That's kind of where I'm looking at. And also, one last question: will we see us going into other chains outside of AVAX?
Yeah, so I guess I'll start with going cross-chain. We already are. We're on ETH, AVAX, and we also entered FTM. So yeah, that's definitely part of the plan, is to go cross-chain. So eventually, we actually want to bridge our token over to another chain. And I guess since you asked me for earlier projects to look into, the one that I'm extremely bullish on right now is Neon Labs, which is a EVM on Solana. So that's one of the first places that we're looking into deploy, because I don't think I even need to get into why EVM on Solana is huge. That's just a common sense play. So yeah, we're looking to expand there and be one of the first projects. And then I guess regarding dividends and all of that, that is something that needs to be carefully managed. And I think we have community members who may ask us to do these things, but all of those things need to be carefully considered. And for example, MCC just released multi-print. And now let's say you have this treasury, you use it to acquire another asset, and then you start distributing that asset immediately back to stakers. You actually haven't made any returns on that. And now, if you were invested in a hedge fund, for example, they have 100% exclusive access to the capital, and then you receive, a return once they've actually made a return on it. It doesn't really make sense to distribute that before a return has been made. So my only point being is that, yes, we want to do it and we plan to do it, but it's something that will happen once we've actually made a return on these investments, rather than just buying assets for the sake of, distributing it for hype or, a trivial reason. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds great. Thank you very much for taking your time with this, and I hope to see more great things in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Secret. Thank you. Ray, what you got, man? I know you're excited to chat. So what kind of questions do you have for Chief?
Yeah, so as I was mentioning before, something I wanted to learn more about was just kind of the marketing strategy for CCC, and at the end of the day, how are we going to get more users kind of on the platform? Because right now, I think the tokenomics are very good. It's very clear, as people trade, you're gonna make money. As as more people come in, you're gonna make money. But getting people on the platform is really kind of the second part of the equation, right? And what was kind of the strategy for that?
Yeah. So some concerns of mine, for example, with marketing is, we've always planned on doing marketing, but I think from the very first week, I've tried to make it clear that our concern with marketing is we need to have content developed that really explains what this project is and what it's about. And so we're working on Gitbook right now, which we are trying to finalize immediately because we got in contact with the marketing agency, who they've helped a lot of projects that, I'm sure you guys are familiar with, like Secret Network, ALBT, and so on. So, like we're trying to establish all of the, like, take care of all of these different pieces, like the video, Gitbook, like having well-written articles describing the project, so that once the marketing starts, all of the information that a person could possibly want about our project is already there and available for them. And that's just because, like that's how we think it'll be the most effective, is once we already have that stuff taken care of. So, I mean, people have seen, like bits and parts of that, of how we're getting it done, but a lot more is coming out. Like I said, the video is being produced in multiple like aspect ratios, for the different social media platforms like YouTube, TikTok, and so on. So we'll be able to deploy it on all of those platforms immediately. But we're expecting to come out with basically just, like a full blast of all this marketing content on those platforms, so that it's all happening simultaneously. And I don't know if you were here earlier when I listed out the different platforms that we're going to be doing that on, but it's going to be Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Brave. We've already spoken with the Brave team regarding browser ads, deck screener ads, and then of course, like utilizing influencers to put that content out as well. Yeah, and then there's guerrilla marketing, another aspect of it. So.
And if you don't mind, I kind of have a question just to follow up on that. So I think one aspect of making it kind of easier to just get on the platform, just kind of getting some more interest, is just kind of making the coin kind of easier to acquire. I think right now it seems a little complicated. Is there any sort of kind of plans or anything like that to kind of make getting cross-chain capital kind of easier to buy for normal people who presumably have a significant amount of the crypto market at the current moment?
Right. I mean, I think we would have to essentially develop our own AMM or DEX. And I mean, that's something that we can do, and the team definitely has familiarity with that sort of thing. They've done it for, like other projects before. So it's definitely something that's doable, but that's really the only solution that, like I can think of right off the top of my head, because the problem with Trader Joe is inherited from Uniswap, being that they're a fork, and every single token that's similar to MCC or Flocky has this issue. And my understanding of it is that it has to do with the massive supply, the fact that it's 1 trillion tokens or more. And that's what causes the AMM to kind of trip and then, cause the difficulties that users are having when they try to buy it. So it's not an individual problem that's specific to us. It's actually related to the DEX itself. So yeah, just off the top of my head, I think the only way we could fix it is if we essentially just created, entirely new infrastructure for people to buy the token.
Yeah, no, that makes sense to me. And the time, that's all I have.
Thank you, Raymond. Appreciate you. Hey, Omir411, I invited you up to the stage, my friend. You just got to click the green button on the top of the stage to come up and actually ask your question. So it's probably staring at you. Yes, you found it. Awesome. Omir, what's up, man? What you got?
There we go. Hey, folks. Just a real quick question. So Cross-Chain Capital's Triple C here, doing a bunch of different things. They're doing the that crab game, and they're doing this Prism thing. And from that, profits are going to go into the treasury, which I believe is a shared treasury amongst all the different programs. So that benefits not just Cross-Chain Capital holders, but all the new holders from the different things that we're doing.
Yeah.
The question I have now is, how is that profit distributed back to the Cross-Chain Capital community? So I buy Triple C, I'm holding it in my wallet, I'm getting some reflections for people buying and selling, or I should say buying. But then, let's say, right now, Cross-Chain Capital, you guys are making, let's say, 500,000, whatever the number is that you mentioned every month from this game that you guys are doing with the crab game. So, let's say you make $1 million game. How does that get redistributed back down to the holders of Triple C?
Yeah, so I just answered it a few questions ago, but like I said, there's direct ways and there's indirect ways, and the direct way is through buybacks and adding liquidity, and so that's the same thing if a random person comes in and buys CCC, like a portion of the reflections from that buy tax. So when we take the money that we've invested and then we go and buy CCC, it's the same thing that's happening, is that yield is distributed to all holders.
So what about other option some folks do, as for example, something like a dividend, right? So it will be like a snapshot of like folks that are holding for, let's say, a month, 2 months, whatever the timeline you guys decide. And like a dividend payout in like maybe like MIM, different type of coin, based on the community.
Right. So I just talked about the dividend structure and the concerns with it. The concerns with it are if you haven't actually made a return, like, because we're not holding all of your money. Like if you had given me $1,000 and, I decide to go invest it somewhere, I take, like, let's say I make 2x on it, 100% return. And now I say, okay, I'm going to return 20% to you, 30% to you, whatever. That's a pretty good return. That's better than you're going to get in traditional finance, basically.
Yeah.
But now, if let's say, like I'm only taking 10% from you when you sell, like I'm not taking 100% from you. And now that 10%, I'm going to go onto the market. I'm going to buy, whatever token, Ethereum, AVIX. And now I'm going to say like, okay, I'm going to pay you dividends. I haven't made any return on it. So that model just, pure and simply doesn't work. So that's the concern of dividends, is that we actually have to use that money and we actually have to be profitable in order to distribute dividends to our holders. And so we're already getting close to being able to achieve that. And Crabada, again, is one example of that, because our initial was $100,000. As of today, actually, as of 2 minutes ago, we are now making $200,000 a month with it. So, like we've already recovered our initial. We have $100,000 in profit. And now we can start saying, okay, like we've made this profit, we can start distributing it back to our holders. And that's a model that makes sense,
Yep.
And so that's what we plan on doing. But like I said, it's going to happen directly and indirectly, because the direct way is going to be buying CCC on the market, the reflections that will be distributed to holders, but then all the other perks and incentive programs that we're going to be releasing for the long-term stakers. And so they're going to get increased rewards for contributing to the protocol, monetarily. And so that's going to be through crab giveaways, and it's going to be through, like increased distributions of those dividends, like CRA, TUS.
Correct. And I think you had mentioned before too, doing the scholarship thing for members in the program. So, folks in the can actually say, hey, we're now controlling this, the game, for example. So that's a cool thing. Let's see, what other questions I have for you? So I think that was all I had for today. I'll definitely hit you guys up if I have more questions, but great program, a great team. You guys are professionals and work really, really hard. I know this morning I think you had a headache, and hopefully everything's okay. But again, even then, you guys are still pushing. So thank you all for that.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you for your questions. Snippy Frills, what's up, Snippy? What you got? Just got to unmute.
Oh, hi, guys.
You got it, bro.
Sorry, excellent. Really cool stuff, guys. It sounds really interesting. Two quick questions. I understand the pooling the profits. How would you recognize losses? So if there's is that going to go into the profit pool as well? And how are you handling your cost base against these potential profits as well? Where will those be disclosed?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the very last part.
It was just about your cost base and how that's disclosed as part of the. I'm assuming that's coming out of the profit pool as well,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we've talked about this and we had questions regarding should we be submitting weekly reports or, like what length of time should we be looking at? And I mean, I think quarterly reports is what makes the most sense. And that's also like what is pretty standard anyway. And I mean, for me, I think it just makes the most sense because we may invest in something and it may not provide returns for, 1-2 weeks. Like sometimes we get lucky and, like you buy something and it pumps immediately after. We all love that feeling, but that's just not the reality of every day or every week. So I think quarterly reports is what makes the most sense. And that's where we can disclose that sort of information, regarding, like what we've made, where we've taken losses, and also just things like, like what we have learned and what our focus is going to be for the next quarter or the year, whatever it is. So yeah, we would like to start doing something like that for sure, providing those reports for all the DAO members.
Great. And then on the cost base side, do you have an annual plan or a projection or a budget or something that kind of that's disclosed, or is that kind of done retrospectively?
I genuinely cannot hear what you're saying. I'm sorry, it's the accent, but yeah.
He's asking about if
Sorry.
you guys have a report here. Yeah, Snippy, just try to ask one more time, just a little slow.
Yeah, I was just saying in terms of your cost base, do you have an operating plan or a budget, or are you forecasting, and how is that disclosed, or is it done retrospectively?
Cost basis?
Yeah, he's asking if you guys have some type of report, like a plan, as far as Scott. Did you understand him?
No, I didn't.
It's very hard. Snippy, you're asking about one more time.
Yeah, I guess
Okay.
what I understood from it is you're kind of asking, like, what like the original value that we purchased something at, right? Or
No, I'm talking about how you run the project, like what
okay.
cost of operations.
Cost of operations.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah,
and
okay,
where
now I understand.
that gets reported in your proceeds and profits and dividends, etc.
Yeah, we're definitely going to be doing something like that. The goal, for the project is to decentralize as, like fully as possible, and also, like have the treasury, owned by multisig. And the reason that hasn't happened yet is just because we're a long project, and I know a lot of projects they release and they have a multi-sig immediately. I think that's kind of premature because when it's a new community, you don't even know, like where the talent is or who can be trusted to be on a multi-sig. And I've actually had personal experience where we had a multi-sig, and because of personal drama, the funds are still locked there to this day. No one has access to it. So we want to avoid that kind of issue. But yeah, we plan on being fully transparent about how everything is spent. Like we do have, like a lot of expenses right now because we're paying all of our community managers, we're paying them like $500 a week. And we have about 8 of them right now. We're paying our graphic designers, and then we're also paying our delegates because the delegates are essentially the analysts for the project. And that all of that stuff is going to be disclosed. So for example, something that we've done recently. So Briscoe, the author of the Crabada proposal, like we're paying him $1,000 a week right now, which I know is not a lot, and we actually want to pay him a lot more because we think he deserves it. But also with the agreement that we came down to, and actually this was a personal offer that I made to him, was once we've been breeding these crabs for a month, we're going to give him, his own bulk crab team, which, like I said, generates about $200,000 a year. And we're going to do that because we think he deserves it, because he wrote a beautiful proposal that's making us a shit ton of money. And so we want to reward that kind of behavior. And that also goes back to what I talked about at the beginning of the AMA regarding this incentivized model and how we want to retain talent and so on, is like we're trying to take care of everyone and make sure that, like they're rewarded for their work. But yeah, so it's definitely something we'll do, publishing these reports and being as transparent as possible about like how the funds are managed and so on.
Yeah, that's cool. That sounds good. Thank you. And apologies for the The accent is the bad line.
Don't ever apologize for your accent, man. It's a great accent.
No, it's okay.
You're all good, man.
Yeah, it's a cool accent.
Thank you so much, Snippy. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
That looks like it's it as far as questions go, Chief. Did you want to say anything in closing here for for all the members listening and people out there?
Yeah, I just wanted to go back to one question, which was Semperfi asked about the sort of content that we're creating to simplify things for people, and even regarding, the sort of content that we want to put out for our investments and the research we've done. I sent Crypto Sensei a summary of 2 games that we're researching right now, which are Alice and Illuvium. So, I'm hoping you guys can share that, and we'll also post it in our Discord so people can review them. But I think it's a good example of, like the sort of content that we want to create for people so that they can get a grasp of these projects. So yeah.
Great.
That's all.
Cool, man. Well, I appreciate. Oh, I guess Raymond did have one more question before we ended here. So, Ray, what you got?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Hey guys, sorry, I just want to step in for one last question, and it's just kind of touching on the point of what you guys are looking to kind of invest in. So in terms of like some of these games, and just kind of generally some of kind of the farming in crypto, some of it is kind of like zero sum, right?
Right.
I mean, the expected value of some of these projects ends up being, either like nothing or like negative, right?
Right.
When you guys are looking at kind of opportunities, like are you, looking to kind of get into these projects at all, or are you kind of basing your underwriting more on kind of, opportunities where like an average investor, in the long run should expect kind of make, positive returns?
We are focused only on legitimate projects that we believe, will be in the space for years to come. It's simply a liquidity question, which is you can't ape into a degen project if, with millions of dollars, unless you want to be exit liquidity for them, then go ahead. But yeah, we're trying to avoid all of that and actually do, like extensive research into projects before taking a position in them. But it's, for the sake of, like security of the funds, to avoid, like severe losses. We're not trying to gamble with money. And that may not appeal to some people because they want instant returns. And I mean, we allow those sort of conversations on our server. So we have, like a degen channel. And we've even like, as recently as last week, we avoided going into Chicken, the NFT project. Because even though we think it's interesting and we do believe Chicken has some potential, we think it's still a little bit too degen compared to the other projects that we're looking at. So yeah, that's we definitely are trying to, like be as smart as possible with the treasury.
Thanks, man. No, that just wanted to kind of, wrap up with that last question. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Appreciate you, man. Oh, I guess Tubster's figured out how to come up. Tubster's, one last question and we'll close it down.
Yes, so my question was, I know lots of exciting stuff. Prism, you got another product underway. Is the idea that these will sit under a CCC portfolio where holders of CCC will have exposure to the upside with these products, or is it more so that we're encouraging those people with CCC that like these products to go essentially have their own positions in these products as well?
Yeah, I mean, like if you have the funds to enter these projects, I definitely think it's worthwhile. I mean, if we're in it, it's probably good for you to be in it as well. And a lot of our, like server members, they have gone into Crabada themselves. I have my own investment in Crabada as well as like many of my friends do. They're also all in CCC. So I definitely think it's possible for people to do both, but we're also going to be, like the holders of the token and the DAO members are going to be getting exposure to them regardless. But I think for, like if you have the funds and you want to maximize, your ROI, then there's really no harm in going into it yourself. Yeah.
That's all I have. Though we're low on time, so thank you very much. I think the product is off to a great start. I'm really excited for what you have in the future. So thank you.
Appreciate you, man. Yeah, Chief, I just wanted to thank you, man. You really gave a detailed picture and roadmap of where you guys are heading. I think you guys have a incredibly brilliant team. Obviously, you're kind of like the front man, letting everyone know what's going on. I think you guys are going to be very successful over here over the next 6 to 12 months, and I wish you guys all of the luck. And let us know how we can support you. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I hope to stay in touch, and I guess we'll be releasing our Gitbook soon, so make sure to check that out to get like a complete overview of the project. But yeah, thanks a lot, guys. This was great. Yeah, I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Chief. I appreciate you. And if you're following up on YouTube, definitely go by the CCC Discord so you can learn more about them and what they're doing in the future. And so we look forward to having you guys back here maybe in next quarter for an update on Prism and then this new third project that you guys are launching that's top secret. So
yeah, I'll definitely make sure to keep you guys updated on that. And I'll also share the links to the videos on our Twitter and our Discord for others to see.
Appreciate you, my friend. All right. You have a wonderful day, and I hope you feel better, man.
Yeah, likewise. All right. Bye, guys.
Cheers.
See ya.